To delegate or to abdicate?
Big question.
Exactly. So I'm going to paint a scenario. So putting on an employee hat at the moment who I had a performance review with, and this individual was fantastic in being self-aware in saying that they need to work on their delegation skills. So that's fantastic. And
Nice.
even acknowledging, we dug into the bedrock a little, that they have some trust issues.
Right.
That their team will not deliver to the same level that they will, and they're concerned. So
right.
Great groundwork done. So I'm going to fast track a long discussion to where we got to the fact that this particular team and organization had been having abundance of quality control issues on this team. And this individual shared that they were going to empower a certain set team members to basically be the frontline final quality check on anything going out to the client base from this team. And so I paused there and said, hold on a second, let's just bring this back. Kudos on acknowledging you have a trust issue. That's fantastic.
Right.
We recognize as a business we have a quality issue. Check. And we want to work on delegation skills, and you're going to let said employee or teammates do all this work that links to the quality issues we've had that they were part of.
Right.
And the person sat and nodded. I said, okay, I want you to tell me what doesn't work with that flow of logic. And we started to unpackage Oren, and really the theme became very clear that, and this is not specific to just this individual, but there's a lack of understanding that delegation can firstly come in the form of delegating a task, delegating a phone call, delegating a audit, delegating a specific feature.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean abdicating entire responsibility or an entire quality process.
Right, right.
Help. As a leader, how do we help to define the role of delegation, which is very important in running an effective team, business, or growing as a leader? But abdication creates a spiral of problems.
Right, right. What I've seen is leaders who are ineffective at delegating, but they're still doing the same job. And their biggest beef is that I'm still the one who has to do everything.
Right.
And I'm still rolling up my sleeves and getting into the weeds. And nobody else can step up and do it. Well, they've been ineffective at delegating.
Right.
And I think it's because they've approached it almost like abdicating. So for me, just to get the terminology correct, if this is what we're thinking or you're thinking, is that the abdication is, hey, you take it on, I'm washing my hands of it, there's no more accountability for me. That's sort of abdicating the task and the responsibility. And so people are on both sides of that almost.
Correct.
So if I define like, so for me, the firstly, to be effective in delegating, you got to hire the right people.
For sure.
Because you got to make sure that the people are capable of taking on the right thing. So that's the given. Let's assume it's the right people in place. And so then we always go back to our bedrock, right? You got to understand, you got to get comfortable in yourself, because I find that a lot of people resist delegating because it has to be perfect and they're not going to do it the same way I do it.
Yeah.
Well, you got to get over that, because nobody's going to do it the same way you do it. And that's good, because we would have no innovation in the world if everybody did everything the same way. So we got to be comfortable with that. And often where that comes from is when we're just insecure in ourselves, and it's going to represent a misfailing on us. So we've talked about that, digging into our bedrock and getting comfortable. So you got to get over that insecurity.
Right.
And then you got to empower the people. So you got to, how I always do it, and I can speak to myself, and I pride myself because I think it's an area that I've been successful at from one of my earliest careers, where we've spoken about this before, that I was stuck out at a client in the middle of nowhere. And I realized that, hey, if I don't bring someone else into this project, I'm stuck here. And so I needed to bring someone on, and I needed to delegate to them, to empower them, that I could then be taken off of the project and moved somewhere else. And so what I did there, and what I always do, is firstly work very closely with a person to make sure that, one, I like to think of it in terms of the planting and the building. So Simon Sinek talks about the why. So that's the planting. So people have to understand where you're headed, right? So if you think about like a GPS analogy, if we're driving from New York to Boston, let's just talk about that. You might not know how to get there yet, but this is where we're headed. Right. So for me, that's the why, just painting the big picture of what we're talking about from delegating.
Right.
And then the building is the skills, because they need to know the why and then the how to get there. And so that's your job to give them the how. And once you set that as a framework up, to give them the direction and make sure that they have the skills, by working with them and coaching them, then you can start to step back and ease back a little bit and give them the freedom to to navigate and get there. So if they know you're going from New York to Boston, they might choose to take a different route. That's totally fine. But if you've given them the direction and said, well, you're going to Boston, you know they're going to ultimately get there. They're going to take a different path, which is fine because it might be better than the path you would have taken. And you've given them the skills. You've given in that, building on that analogy, you gave them the car, you've taught them how to drive it, and they know where to go. So just step back.
And that trust boosts people to go above and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. Because people want to, they want to please and they want to deliver value, and you've given them the freedom to have that innovative mindset and to apply their knowledge to solve it. So you're empowering them.
So I want to break, because you're right, and I want to come back to that analogy of you kind of got the destination of Boston in mind. But let's go back to a tactical field employee scenario where you're not dealing with someone who's vastly experienced in multiple scenarios, and they need to be taken on the journey. So the GPS directions are going to need to be a little more explicit to set them up for success. And using the performance feedback that a scenario I shared, it was helping this individual understand that they had to take their teammates on a journey.
Right.
And so to set them up for success, it was delegating certain functions.
Right.
So they had the opportunity to use new muscles and kind of safe to risk environment. They're not going to break anything. Like we're going to lose any clients.
Right.
But then loop back with them and reward them for a job well done. So they were building confidence and skills, to your point, and take them on this journey where in time, in pretty short order, you can then delegate a bigger chunk and a bigger chunk.
And so I think in that instance, you're coaching both the delegator and the delegatee. I mean, you're working with that. So, and I think the answer in both of those instances is, one, you have the big goal that you want to get to, but you got to break that into mini goals. And so mini goals of try delegate this, try down emphasize and see how that feels. So it's a great point, because when people are thinking delegation, it's like I'm giving the whole thing, then it's like that's the abdication. How it works out, like it's not.
And then they haven't been set up for success.
No, and both fail. It's not a fair situation.
Correct.
That the delegate is truly, it's the milestones that you set and just getting them comfortable building that muscle of delegating. And then, so it proves it out on both sides. So I think that's very wise,
Now I'm going to go all the way the other range, where we've got perhaps an owner of a company, a very senior leader, who's having this issue of, and you gave a great scenario, 4 years, I'm still stuck in the same role, no one's good enough, no one's taking this load off of me. And then it's a question of, is it the people or is it the individual? And it's probably a combination of being able to hire talent that's better than you, which is a very scary concept for a lot of our leaders out there. The concept of replace yourself. Find someone who's better than you, because when you can replace yourself, you're able to then free up to the next level. So there's that. And then when you've hired the replacement, right, or a strong team member, step aside. Let them run with it. I had a dream call, I considered it a dream call several weeks ago, where I'd hired a very strong player in a certain space to take some load off of me. And it was a new relationship. And so, you're delegating, but you're staying close because there's still relationship, reputation, respect pieces out there. You want to make sure the transition's smooth.
Sure.
And I got a very nice phone call to politely say, please back off.
Oh, wow.
It was great.
Wow.
I loved that. And it was very well done. And I listened and I said, you know what? Great, right? This is fantastic. And the words back I used were, thank you for making the call, and you need to know I fully trust you. I know you have this project. Run with it. And it's been amazing to watch how this person's flourishing, but more than that, the business is benefiting. And selfishly, it's freed up my time to do other things I need. But that transition, we both see many of the business owners we partner with have a really hard time of hire well, and then step aside and let the talent you've invested in do what you hired them to do. Any guidance for that business owner or operator on how to, assuming they've hired well, which is a different dialogue, how do you find the courage to let go?
I think in the scenario that we're thinking is there's a piece in between. And I'll test this and you tell me, this is something I naturally do, is that I'm never going to delegate something that I don't feel like I can do myself or that I haven't done myself. Rather, it's not that I have to do it to the 100%. I'll take the 80-20 approach. Like I'll do as much as I can to get to 80% of the impact, just so I understand, and then I can delegate much, much more effectively. So I think in the leadership scenario we're talking about, it's a case where the leader hasn't done that certain job, and so they're in a position where they're delegating, or they think they're delegating, but because they don't know what it looks like to roll up their sleeves and actually do the work, they can't provide any guidance at the detailed level. And also, I think they're insecure and uncomfortable, so they sort of step back more. So it might be viewed as abdication, which they are. It's just they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
So there's no value they can add. So it sets up this weird dynamic. So I'm not sure if that sort of makes sense.
It's certainly a flavor of it.
As a leader, you got to be able to get into the trenches and do the work yourself.
Right.
And for me, I believe at least that if that person is not there, if they're sick, like I want to be able to do 80-20 of what they can do.
Right.
And then I can step back. So I think that's a key piece of what people often miss, because then it's hard to provide the coaching at that level. So it's a tough one. It's how do you nurture this skill set in people? And it really takes digging in with that person and them digging in themselves to understand the unique scenario as to why are they struggling and not successful in this scenario. There
is the key, Oren. It's every scenario is different.
Yeah.
But it all comes back to starting with the leader, whether it be an entry-level leadership role or whether it be the CEO of a global organization, digging into their core bedrock, figuring out what it is as to what stands in their way of delegating, trusting, feeling insecure.
Totally.
Surround yourself with great talent. In really build this courage to commit environment and a safe to risk environment.
Right.
And have fun doing it. Just get it done.
Said well.